All right, everyone, thanks for your patience. Once again, this is Ian Schaefer, one of the senior product specialists here at UDA Technologies, and today I will be driving as we go through and take a look at the Redline Planroom feature in Construction Online. Now, this is going to be a markup tool. I'm sure most of you guys are familiar with the idea here as we're going through and taking a look. Ours is a little unique, though, in that we have a lot of interconnecting pieces here with Construction Online, and we'll show you guys how all of these are going to apply in Redline to give you all the tools that you will need, regardless of your location, to succeed on every kind of job. Now, as we're going through this as well, I do want to mention that this Redline feature is going to be available currently in most versions of Construction Online. So as you guys are going through and taking a look, a lot of you will have access to the feature, both for residential and commercial projects. And as we're going through and taking a look, I think today we actually have a townhome that we're going to be looking at. I believe that's the case anyway. It's a 2.5-story building, I guess. It's got about a half a basement in there. But ultimately, we'll be going through and using this as our example. I find that this one is actually a great set of plans, or an easy set of plans to look at, because it's very intuitive that we'll be going through and taking a look. Now, again, I have my colleague Jordan Davis here with me today. He's one of our top product specialists as well. And he's going to be sharing some of the experiences that he's had working with customers, not only in getting started with some of these features like Redline, and the marking up capabilities here, but also how some of our clients are already actively using this right now. As you guys may have seen, we've already gotten a lot of feedback from you guys who are joining us today. As a lot of you have seen, our colleague Sydney Dorsey is also going to be answering questions for us today. Most of you guys know her as the lead success coordinator for Construction Online. She's going to be in here fielding questions that we might have, making sure that you guys have all of your topics ready, and we can go from there. Now, today in our webinar, we're going to be focused exclusively on Construction Online. Most of the features and the tools that we're looking at are going to be available in mobile app form. So if you're using something like an iPad or a phone, all of this functionality will still be available to you there as well. Now, we actually thought about doing the webinar or hosting the webinar itself from one of the surfaces as well. Unfortunately, Surface doesn't have an easy way to connect the microphone for the webinar, so it would have been a little bit difficult, and we thought, hey, why don't we just go with the website? We can go straight in and use all the tools and make sure that you guys get the best experience possible using this collection of tools. Now, to start with, again, we are looking at Construction Online. Construction Online is the website here that's a full project management platform, and it includes a lot of the content on the left side, like projects and files, image galleries, contacts, public profiles, even some of the advanced features like estimating, scheduling, calendars, all of this. All of these features are currently in use by a little over 500,000 clients now, or 500,000 users, and we've got these features and functions spread throughout the world. We're actually covering, I think, right around 80 countries, and that means that this platform is in use everywhere. It also means that it's going to be available to you guys everywhere. So if you happen to be working on projects and your customers are located in a different location, Redline is going to be one of those perfect features to be able to effectively communicate what's happening and where. And it's all going to be done with a set of plans that's going to be provided typically either by you if you're a design build firm, or by an architect or something like that if you guys are working. We also have a lot of clients who are actually working for municipalities as well, so maybe you're getting things from the local city or state or whatever it is for you guys to work on as well. All of this content can actually be loaded up into the projects. You can load it up into the files section, which is where we are, or we can load it directly into Redline. We'll talk about that in just a moment. Now, to begin with, what you should be able to see is the projects list that we have available in this UDA Redline account. So we're using the Redline account today because we actually have a lot of great sets of plans loaded in here. And as we look through, we've got a few core projects here that we're working on. Today's project is going to be Lot 118 Baldwin Park. As we look through this, of course, we've got all the projects available to us here. If we take a look at the Redline Planroom feature itself, you'll actually see that the Redline Planroom collection of projects is available. Same collection of projects here, but different projects are going to have a different number of plan sets available in them. Now, we all know what a plan set is, or we've all looked at a set of plans, and it's typically going to be multiple pages and a lot of documentation that goes along with it as well. And ultimately, our sets are a lot of the same. Each of the plan sets is going to be a folder containing the complete collection of pages in the blueprints for the job. And most of this information is going to be provided, typically by the architect, as a PDF or a drawing file. Now, of course, they're going to send it to you, or they're going to upload it directly into the project itself. And doing so is just a matter of coming up to and clicking the Add Plan button up in the top right corner. Now this, of course, is going to ask you which project we're working on, so you'll be selecting one of your projects here, and then it'll give you a couple of options for how to pull that information in to publish the plans into Redline. Now when you're doing this, again, my recommendation is to actually set the plan set up ahead of time, send the invitation to your architect to allow them to go upload the set of plans directly. This saves you the time of having to email files back and forth, or maybe set up Dropbox links or anything like that. You can skip most of these steps just by inviting them directly to the set of plans, and most of those options are going to be available under the drop-down menu to the right. From here, you can add drawing sets, and you can add users to both the project, or you can manage your project team from here to control who's able to get into and add content or adjust the plans that are available within here. Now, you'll also be able to set up multiple plan sets here if you like. Ultimately, I find most people are going to be focused in on one or maybe a small couple of plan sets. Again, my expectation for something like a residential project, especially if you're just building a custom home, it's probably going to be one plan set. You've got one plan set, multiple pages for the home, and that might include, the electrical plans or the plumbing plans, the floor plans for the home itself. Each of the floors is going to have its own page. All of that structure is going to be in there. If you're starting to work on multi-building commercial projects, maybe you're working on a school, perhaps, if we're going to be doing government contracts. So maybe there's a couple of buildings there for the school. Could be different plan sets, one for each building, perhaps, that you're working on. Or like our location, our office building has a small strip mall nearby. And there's also a restaurant across the street and everything like that. It was all built by the same company. So for this company, they would have had multiple sets for this one master project. And again, all of this information is going to be available within the project here as plan sets. Now, once you get into the plans themselves and you actually start looking at it, Redline as a feature set is going to look a little bit more like this. A lot bit more like this, because this is actually Redline. And what we're looking at here is one of the pages for the plans themselves. I'm actually on the first page, and this is the basic floor plan for the structure that we're working on. And what we're looking at here is page 1 of a 3-page PDF collection. If you open it up and take a look, all 3 pages are going to be available to you here, and you can actually use this to switch back and forth between the various different pages that you're working on. Let's zoom in a little bit there to see this is the upper level for the structure. But we're going to focus on page 1 for the time being. And as we're looking through page 1, of course, this is floor plans for a home. It's two stories with a basement. And from here, of course, we've got standard things for a home. We've got a garage, we've got the living space, family room, dining room. There's an optional space up top here that includes some sketched out options for things like a large island versus a small island in the kitchen. These are options that could be included. You'll also have this morning room, or a little open lighted area for like a breakfast nook kind of idea or concept. All of these would be options that could be included. These are decisions that your customer is going to be making as we decide to move forward. Now, of course, for this collection of plans, it's a rather small one, but it gives us plenty of space to work within the plans to start applying markups as they come into play. Now, in Redline, you'll have all of your core features that you would expect to find in a markup tool, and most of these are actually going to be located on the left-hand side. So from here, the very first option in the toolbar is going to be the grabber tool. What may look like a hand for most of you. And what you can do with this is, of course, you can use this to position the page that we're on. You can also use the grabber tool to go into and select traces or markups as they're being applied. Now, we don't have any yet, so obviously there's nothing to grab onto. But from here, we can still go through and position ourselves accordingly and really kind of maneuver around on the drawing itself to focus in on anything in particular that we're looking at. Now, when I'm zooming in this case, I'm actually using the wheel on the mouse to scroll in. For those of you who don't have a mouse wheel, you'll also find a little zoom bar down here on the bottom right-hand corner. So you can use the plus sign to zoom in a little bit closer if you need to, or you can zoom out using the minus sign here. And ultimately, it just helps you kind of get your perfect zoom depending on the device that you're working on. In our case, we're going to sit comfortably right around here. Now, in addition to the grabber tool, you'll notice that there's going to be what looks like a little lasso here as well. This multi-select is really applicable when you start to get some of your markups in place, but you may realize that some of the pins that you guys are applying or some of the notes might be going onto the wrong section of the plans and you just want to move a whole collection. The multi-select allows you to circle all of them and then drag them as one unit to position them in a different area. So we'll come back to this as we start to do some additional traces and markups, and most of those are going to happen with the collection of tools that we have moving down. Now the very first one, the one most of us are going to use all the time, is the freehand tool. Now the freehand tool has a couple of great options here for adjusting what it looks like, but for most of Redline, we've got it set to use a stroke color of, surprise, surprise, red. So in this case, you've got the drop down though where you can choose any number of different colors that you'd like to use, and you can go through and adjust the color wheel and the patterns and everything like that. There's also going to be a type drop down here where you can select solid lines, dotted lines, whatever it might be, and you can select a stroke width here as well. As you go through and apply your markups, you'll be able to simply click and drag to maneuver the icon around, or basically just draw whatever it is you need to draw with your freehand. Now these would be the type of objects that you can actually come into and grab later. So if you needed to, you could use the grabbing tool to come into and select one of these items. And as you're selecting the items themselves, you'll notice that it's going to provide some of the additional details, some of the additional information here from it to work with there as well. Now, once again, as we're working through this, you'll actually be able to see most of the detail coming together. With the freehand tool, you can go into and start to adjust some of the additional information in here that you guys might have as well. And while you're working through this, any of the freehand drawings that you guys are working with or anything that you guys are providing in Redline itself will give you guys the options to, again, trace, freehand, go through and select maybe some of the core pieces of the option sets that we have up here above. Or again, if we needed to, if we're drawing on the wrong area, we can come through and just select everything and then delete the whole collection if we needed to. It looks like my circle missed a couple of bits, but that's okay. We've got the grabbing tool to come in here and actually grab those extra pieces and delete whatever else applies or doesn't apply as needed. Now again, as you're going through and you're working with most of this information, you can actually circle, highlight, or freehand your way through everything. Now with the highlighting tool itself, you'll have some similar options up at the top on the highlighter, but the idea with the highlighter is you actually want to come into and highlight larger sections here to work with. Now these larger sections are going to have a number of additional options as well. So first of all, for the highlighting tool, I want to zoom in, didn't mean to do that one. Let's delete that option. And then I'm going to go through and highlight some of the options that our customers might be selecting. So again, we're going to grab onto the item, delete it, and now let's zoom into the area where we need to do these traces. And then we can highlight some of the options that our customer is going to be working with. I'm going to refresh the page as well, briefly, so that we can get a clean slate for what we're working on today. And as we're working our way through and highlighting some of these options, let's make sure that we get a stroke width that makes sense. This is pretty cool, pretty close. So again, as we're highlighting this, you'll notice that the opacity these highlighted items are going to be slightly transparent. Gives us an easy option to go through and highlight like so, or maybe we wanted to highlight certain areas like on windows perhaps, or doors or entryways, whatever might be included. You'll have the option to go through and highlight all of these items. Once again, if need be, we can go through and circle all of these items. We'll leave the room down there alone and clear out any of the additional ones if we have more questions that are going to be coming into play. So once again, we've just got some easy ways to go through and mark up or clear up some of this information as needed. Now, one thing that I would mention, it looks like we've already got a couple of questions about this as well. As you're going through and using some of the freehand tools, you'll notice that once the drawing or the sketch is in place, you've got some options to include additional people with these items, and you can provide titles for them as well. The titles are, of course, going to be important because you're going to want reminders later about what it is that we're marking up or anything like that. The people might be additional users or additional Redline participants that might need to be able to get into the system and see some of these without necessarily making them public, which would make them available to all people who have access to this plan set in Redline. So again, just kind of navigating through and providing some of this additional detail. These options for both the freehand tool and the highlighting tool give you some additional controls for how to share this information out. Now, with that said, these are going to be most of the tracing tools. We've got a freehand and a highlighter, but sometimes you need to be very specific in the area that you guys are working. Maybe we're going to have a couple of comments about the cars in the garage or the two-car garage workspace in here, and for that, we have some additional shapes predefined in the system as well, like the clouds or automated squares, circles, even freehand polygons if you guys wanted to go through and trace out a lot of large objects. Now I'm going to use the cloud shape in this case. We've still got some of the same options up here at the top. Let's bring this line size down to a 1 again, the width down to a 1 rather. And from here, we're going to use the same standard red, still the same kind of line. We don't need dotted lines or anything like that, with a stroke width of 1. We'll also have some options here to fill in this cloud as well. So if I wanted to provide some additional kind of fill for this, maybe we set an opacity of let's say 10%. And this way, as we go through and trace out the area, you'll notice that it's going to be highlighting the area that we're working with. Now, of course, we still have the same options. Apply a title if relevant. Go through and set it to public if you want everybody to be able to see it, or just add in the individuals that we're going to be working with here and then click done, and then there you go. So again, some easy ways to go through and provide some of this detail for the shapes. Again, we've got the cloud, which has the kind of cloud edges to the shape that we're drawing. Most of these are going to be squares or rectangles. If you needed some of the additional options in here too, you can use the ellipse to circle various different options in here if you wanted to. Or you can use some of the additional options for, again, polygons, freehand polygons, squares and rectangles in here as well. Now beyond the shapes, you'll also have some of the lines and arrows in here as well. Once again, standard things. So you can come into and provide a line, great for underlining or separating out spaces, arrows, which are going to come in later when you start to post comments, and double-sided arrows as well, especially useful if you guys are going to be talking about shifting certain items around a little bit. In this case, maybe we wanted to take the fireplace that's optional here and put it on the back wall instead. So maybe we grab the fireplace and put it over here instead. Now again, these arrows are going to allow you guys to really pinpoint or hyper-focus on here as you're working through. Again, they're available for all the different devices that you're working on as well. So if you have your tablet in the field, it's a great tool for the job. Now in addition to these arrows, we've got some text fields here as well. I'm skipping down past the calibration tools, and we'll show you why in a moment. But with these text boxes, you might go into and actually apply a little text box here to tell whoever it is that you're working with why we have these arrows in place. Now, one thing that I would mention about the text box itself, you'll notice that the shapes are still going to be in place. But an important piece here is on this set of plans, there's going to be a font size that applies in here as well. And keep in mind that large fonts are going to make it a little bit more difficult to see on a small workspace. So go through and adjust the amount of text or the size of the text within the box to make sure that you get something that makes sense. And then if we need to move the items around a little bit, we can resize them or adjust them or what have you. So here, let's stretch the box out just a hair. And actually, while I'm thinking about it, let's move it out a little bit so that we can actually read the content that we're trying to apply. So again, it just gives you some easy options to go into and provide notes. You still have the same kind of fill colors and opacity. And if you guys decide to change the colors around a little bit, you can get some interesting options for how you restructure some of the content or the detail within Redline itself. Now again, this is going to be the text fields. You'll also have the option to apply a quick note. A quick note is effectively a text box with accompanying arrow. So if you needed to apply a quick note someplace, this just gives you the space to go into and apply these notes, whatever the notes might be. size 6. And let's adjust the positioning a little bit here. For what we're working on. Again, notes should always be quick and easy in this case, and they'll shift around based on where we're attaching the initial arrow to. Again, great tool here for just getting some additional notes in for conversations that you might be having with clients or for architects or anything else that you're working with. Now on this as well, as you go through and you start posting your notes, you'll also have some additional shading options here or shaping options, one of which is going to be a calibrator tool. Most fully detailed sets of plans will have a scale. You guys have all seen this, I'm sure. But they've got the scale to measure out where something is. If you guys are working with something like this, which is a quick sketch, you might instead need the calibrator to come into and measure the width or the height of a room. Let's say we're going to do it from here. And then you can apply the additional measurement in this area. So let's just say that this is going to be about 15 feet. This is about a 15-foot wide room. This just sets the scale for the drawing. So now, in addition to being able to calibrate this and be able to draw some of the boxes and everything like that, we also have some options here for measuring lengths or calculating areas for rooms here as well. These are going to be some of the tools that you guys may end up using to figure out how much flooring you might need for a room, or any of the additional details from there. Just gives you some of the measurements there in the middle to calculate these things out. And allows you to do some quick takeoffs for anything that you guys are working on. If at any point you guys needed to apply some of these things, you'll be able to get that information in there as well and just see some of the numbers that are coming through. So once again, all of this information is going to be available using the core takeoff tools that's or the core markup tools that's available within Redline. Now, before I dive too far away from this left side panel, which has all the tools, Jordan, earlier you were mentioning one of your favorite but most underutilized features. What was that feature again that you were working with, and what do you hope that everybody takes out of this webinar when they leave?
Well, you've covered it. Well, maybe you haven't quite covered it yet, but we were moving towards it. I saw you skip over it a bit. I thought that one of the, I'd say, least or maybe like the most underutilized tools. It's kind of a interesting phrase there, but I think that something that our clients could take more advantage of would be actually attaching photos or other documents or files to the plans. Simply because once you've actually done so, they're accessible within the plan, and it really gives a lot of context and can really bring a lot of quick and really rich information to a drawing simply by pulling it up and then taking a look at what was attached to the drawing.
And so this would be the attachment feature, by the way, that you'll find over on the left-hand side. And the attachment feature is, it looks like a paperclip, of course. And when you're applying an attachment anywhere, all you have to do is click the attachment icon, select where you would like to apply that attachment, and then it gives you a little plus sign here to add attachments and upload them either from your device, or you can attach them from Construction Online, or for some of you, you'll also have the need to pull them in from something like a Google Drive or a Dropbox or OneDrive. However the file has been provided for you, or however the pictures are being included, you can attach them here. From the mobile app, kind of to the point that you were making there, Jordan, you'll also be able to take pictures and attach them directly to a set of plans as well. And that's going to be an option, obviously, that we don't have here because we don't have a camera attached to the computer. But if we did, that would be one of the additional options that you guys have here too. That, by the way, is a tremendous tool to use when you guys are walking a job site with the customer and you're trying to examine or super focus on anything, or if you're doing inspections, because in the event that you need to do an inspection, you may be going through and taking pictures of anything that needs to be worked on or fixed up, or maybe you're just taking pictures for paint colors perhaps, or something like that. All of those possibilities would be here, and adding them as attachments in the plan set itself gives you a very easy way to go back to or revisit anything that we need to come back and remember after the fact. Now again, these are going to be most of your markup tools, and where ConstructionOnline or Redline Planroom starts to differentiate itself a little bit is in the next collection of pinnable items that you'll find at the bottom of the toolbar here or on the right sidebar. Now I'm going to go over to the right sidebar because all of these options that we're looking at here are going to be features within Construction Online, And we've got a better detail or better description of them over on the right, where we've expanded out this side panel to give us the additional detail for Redline itself. Now, first of all, on the attachment front, we have files. If you're clicking on the files, this will give you a list of all the files that are available within this project. Those files may apply somewhere here on the set of plans, files and images, in fact. So if you've got somebody out on the job site and they're taking pictures all over the place, and maybe it's progress photos or something like that, we could come into this set of the plans and start grabbing the files and attaching them directly here. Now, if you don't have the files that you need on Construction Online yet, this is an excellent place to go and add those files directly to the set of plans. Again, same as before, the files could be uploaded from the computer. We could pull them in from some place like Google Drive, or if need be, we can also drag and drop directly onto the web browser right here. Just drop it into this space, it'll load the file up, and then you can just drag it over and pin it wherever it applies here. The next option down is going to be a lot of the project tracking tools. So as you're going through and you're working on to-do lists, for example, this is an excellent place for you to come into and find things like order the washer and dryer. Now, looking at this set of plans, there's not actually a washer and dryer anywhere on here. It doesn't look like we've got them drawn out in the garage. So this might not be the right place for it. If we go and take a look at page 2, we'll actually find the area on the plans where we have the laundry room. There's the washer dryer right there in the middle. Now it says optional in this case, but based on the to-do here, it looks like our customer has decided to go forward with it. So in our case, we need to just grab the pin for the to-do, the task for ordering the washer and dryer, drop it onto the washer and dryer space, and there it is. Now we have that task pinned to the plans where it applies. Now you'll catch other things in here as well. Or we'll be able to go into and create new to-dos in this area. So maybe one of the tasks that we need to make sure that we talk to our customer about master bath options. Yeah, spelling not my strong suit, unfortunately, guys. But there, we might create an additional task here, and we want to get this one done soon. So let's set it for due date of tomorrow. Haven't started on the task yet, and we don't want to assign it to anybody because I'm going to take care of it myself. But in this case, this gives us the collection. And once again, for pinning, we can just take this. Oh, don't need to open it. Take the pin, drag it up here, and drop it over the tub, closet, shower space. I'm going to change this one again to green this time. And when we come through and refresh the page, it's going to give us that information there as well. And as we're looking at this information, though, the options that apply here, again, this task is going to give them the choice of using the standard bath. Let's actually remove the pin from here. They've got the standard bath and linen closet, or we can go with a large walk-in shower and closet, jacuzzi tub and smaller stand-up shower, or again, tub, shower, this time with a seat, if they choose to go with that option. So as we're taking this and we're pinning it somewhere in this space, now we have the option to go into and once again supplement this with a few arrows. Maybe we've got one here, that could apply. We've got another one here where we wanted to have an arrow that points to the option that they selected, perhaps. Once again, with maybe some descriptions for what we're working with. You can enter in your titles. Select this one. And of course, once that's finished, you'll have all of this information in Redline so you can go through and check these items off as they come up. So all of this can be done directly from a set of plans. It does also feed back into the main Construction Online interface as well. So you'll see all of these to-dos available right there. You'll also notice that these tasks, when assigned to additional resources from the set of plans, those tasks or punch list items or scheduled tasks or anything like that, they'll also start to feed into GamePlan as well. Now, if you guys haven't talked about GamePlan or you haven't started implementing that, I highly recommend going and taking a look at some of the content available in GamePlan. It is, again, to the point that Jordan was making earlier, it's one of those exceedingly valuable, far too often underutilized features because it automates all the information that your team is supposed to know, and it's a hands-free feature. You set it and forget it. So definitely take a look at GamePlan because it's going to gather up all this information and send it out as it applies. Now, speaking of additional information, from this to-dos section, you'll also notice that we have the space for daily logs or project logging in here as well. If you go to the project logging feature, you can actually post logs and pin them directly to the area that applies. This is exceedingly useful. Again, there it is. If you guys have team members out in the field who are looking at a set of plans and they're trying to describe which bathroom they're working in when they're installing plumbing, they might come into and post a project log and then pin that log directly to the bathroom where they were working to give you, the manager of the job, or the customer, a clear idea of the progress that's being made. If we still have a couple of outstanding tasks, we'll be able to see, based on the daily logs, what's been done, maybe from there figure out what's left, and then we can go into and start applying punch lists. Now the punch list is again an excellent feature for going into and outlining everything that's left to do. So as we're going through and building the punch list, we might say additional bathroom requirements. And then from here, we can start adding in some of the punch list items like, let's say, faucets. And we can say install shower head, perhaps, is another task. So there's the faucets. Let's put in install shower head. That's not 2 words. We can always clean that up from the punch list section later before we print it off for the customer. But again, as we're doing this, we can now grab these, pin them to the area where they apply. And then, of course, as our guys are out on the job site finishing these things up, they'll be checking off these tasks from the punch list or the to-do list, and they can check them off directly from the set of plans, or they can go in through the punch list feature or their game plan to be able to get that information completed there as well. On the customer side, of course, you've got some great options in here for taking the selections that you guys have been building out and pinning them directly to the plans where they apply. You'll also have the option to take a change order that might have cropped up and take that and pin it to the plan as well. Maybe in this case, one of your customers decides that they want to take a bedroom, for example, and turn it into more of an office space. So if they were going to do something like that, you could come into the change orders area, add a new change order from here, and then apply this to the space where they're going to be making that change. Now again, all of this information is still going to be available directly on the set of plans. So as you're going through and trying to remember where you left off with everything, open up the page, see where everything is. From here, if you click on the pin, it gives you the specific details. Or when you're in the features themselves, like if we were to switch over to and take a look at the change orders list in Lot 118 Baldwin Park, you'll actually find a pin icon on the change order now that when you click on that pin, it takes you to this page and zooms in down here on this room. So make sure that if you guys are applying these change orders to the plans, pin them. In fact, pin everything. Take it all and attach it to the set of plans to make sure that everybody can find exactly what you're talking about and there's no miscommunication about anything like this that applies. So again, pinning these features, crucial. Make sure that you guys are taking advantage of this additional function. And as you guys advance down beyond this, you'll also find some additional communication tools like submittals, RFIs, transmittals, and the messaging feature. You'll find the calendar connection from here as well, which is great. If you guys are going to have meetings to discuss specific things, you can create the meeting and then pin it again to the plans. And you'll also have some additional lead detail here as well. This I find is very, very useful for anybody who does spec homes or builds an entire subdivision. You can actually go through and have a collection of plans. Maybe you guys have, let's just say 6 different floor plans for the structures that you guys are building, for the home that you're building. You can go through from this area and actually start pinning the leads that you guys have to the page and the plans just to make sure that you're better able to collect who's looking at what, who's considering which features or which floor plans or whatever it might be. So if you're a spec home builder, it's the perfect tool for you. With a small collection of plans, you can actually gather up all the information for your leads and everything like that as well. Now, of course, some of the last features that I've already seen some questions about and that come up as questions all the time is how do we take this information and send it out to everybody from there? Well, my ideal scenario is that you actually take the time to include them as additional team members to your project. If they're a part of your team, your next step would be to come into the tasks themselves, anything that might be pinned or included within the set of plans, and make sure that you flag all of these items as public. This would mean that anybody on the team who can get into the collection of pages here in Redline can see these pins or the markups or whatever else you applied. Personal, of course, is for you. Public is going to be for the whole team. And as you go through and include these options, of course, the more information that you're able to provide to them through the public markups, the better an idea that they'll have as they're working through this information as well. So don't forget to flag these items as public. You'll notice that for most of these, since I was just kind of going through and kind of designing an idea for what we're going to do, I haven't made them public yet. I haven't confirmed that we're going to be doing these things. As we do confirm, that's when we flip to public. That's when the whole team can see it. Now, you do still have to add them to the set of plans. Adding them just to the project in Construction Online is not enough. Adding them to the plan so that they'll see what's going on is very, very important. Once again, up here at the top, it's going to be under Project Team. Now, of course, the question still comes up, though. What do we do if we've got project team members that don't want to go into the plans? Well, step one, give them a slap on the back of the head, because that's crazy talk. Beyond that, though, you do have options to print out the set of plans if you guys need to. This could be a print to like a plotter or a print to PDF if you choose. You'll also have the option to email them out from here as well. So great options for going from there. And from the share fields above the printing option, you've got even more options here too, to send out emails, to send out messages included with this, or however you choose to apply that. Most of these are going to give them a link to pull the page or to download any of the information from the page itself. Again, it's a great way to get the information out there, but the best option is to actually pull them in. So option number one is always going to be to make sure that you add them to the project team. And with your project team, you'll be including these as individuals who can actually get into and see the information that we're sharing right here from a set of plans. So when the option is available, make sure that we use the Manage Team button, and that way we can go through and see some of the additional detail in there. Now, as the team gets bigger and bigger, of course, you're going to want to see what everybody's doing on the set of plans. And for that, you'll actually be able to go into and take a look at the history for everything that's being worked on. Now, for this page, the history is going to include a couple of options here for including some of the tasks, adding a few arrows into what we're working on, and so on. And what's interesting about these is that if you go into and click on one of the items, you can actually highlight or hide some of the additional options here, turning things on and off as you guys go through the history itself. Now, again, as you're looking at all of this information, just keep in mind that all of the details will be auto-saving. The little pop-up just came up there down below, because this is a live document. If we wanted to go through and see the history or see any of the versioning or anything like that, we start to get into some of the options here under the page information for adding in revisions at this point. So if you ever have a set of plans and we need to do some revisions, create a revision here. With those revisions, you'll be able to go through and see iterations of what's happening in the set of plans. So maybe we pin some different items in different places. Maybe we're changing this out because the customer selected this optional upgrade for the bathroom and we want to go ahead and apply it so that we don't make any mistakes down the road. These may all be parts of the revisions, and you can go ahead and apply those so that they're going to be available to anybody who's working with it from that point moving forward. Now, I think at this point, that's actually going to cover most of what we have for you guys, most of what we wanted to talk about today. I will go through and give it a quick look to make sure that we have all the questions answered. I think we've done a fair job of keeping up with them, but there's one that's kind of popped up a couple of times. I noticed one of you guys mentioned an Apple Pen. A couple of other people have asked about the stylus for the device that you're working on, or touchscreen options. Ultimately, if the device that you're working on allows you guys to work with a stylus, and you're using one of the features where the stylus makes sense, like the freehand tool, then yes, absolutely you can use any of those devices. Of course, most of the features and the functions in Redline were designed with mobile devices in mind, so you're going to be using the all-natural stylus there. You're going to be using your fingers to go through and trace and draw and put in notes and everything like that as well. So Absolutely. All of those things work spectacularly well, and I highly recommend that you guys go grab a set of plans like this one, go ahead and load it up into Redline, and explore some of the possibilities. You'll find that people are going to grab onto this very quickly, and they're going to run with it because everybody likes good imagery when you guys are trying to communicate. If you can show them exactly what you're talking about and exactly where it applies, that means no miscommunications, which means that the jobs are going to get done better, faster, and you're going to make sure that you guys are executing properly and everybody is happy with the results. So again, Redline makes people happy. So make sure that you guys get in there and start using these features and functions so that way you guys can go out there and more successfully create future structures. You can get more clients out of the deal, and it's all because of this one little feature that's built into the tools that you guys are already using. Now again, with that in mind, I don't want to keep you guys too much. We're already getting waved off so that we can go take care of some of the calls that are coming in, but if you guys do have any follow-up calls about Redline or anything else that we offer, by all means, give us a call or shoot us an email. You can always reach us via email at info@uda1.com or on the phone at 1-800-700-8321. And hopefully we've taken you guys through everything you want to see. If not, reach out to us. If so, guys, I want to thank you so much for your time. And it's been a pleasure having you. Stay tuned after the holiday week next week for the next series of webinars where we're going to be focusing in on a whole new collections of features and functions that we want to share with you guys. So make sure that you keep an eye on those emails. We'll be announcing some of those topics in the very near future. Once again, thanks so much for your time, guys. We appreciate it. And I hope you all have a great weekend and a great 4th of July.